Okay, so we are in chapter 3, section 4 today, percents becoming decimals and fractions. Okay, so kind of fun. We're going to change percents to decimals and fractions. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about percents this year. A percent is a number what? Stuart? Some out of 100. And so remember we talked about how we see the little 100 in the percent symbol? Can we talk about that with you guys? Percent is over 100. We're always comparing something to 100. Beautiful, nice, easy number, right? So we could write a percent as the number over 100, couldn't we? So 20% could be written as, everyone, let's say it's 20 over 100. And so 20 over 100 is something that we could simplify, right? 20 over 100 could be simplified as a fraction. It could also be written as a decimal, right? So there are really three ways to write numbers. We can write them as just some number, some percent, or some decimal. Stuart? Are you reducing it or are you changing it to a decimal? Change it to a decimal for us. If we say 20 hundredths, what do we say? 0.2. You can literally see the 20 if you keep the 0, right? 0.20 and 0 is in the hundredths place. So 20 hundredths is equivalent to how many tenths? 2 tenths. Right, 2 tenths. And we would just look at this value, this place value here. Okay? Okay, so we're going to start by changing percents to decimals. We've already done the fractions quite a bit, so let's do this. And then we'll do fractions too. Changing a percent straight to a decimal. In this last example, we changed a percent to a fraction, and we thought about that place value being hundredths, right? So can we go straight from 35% to the decimal? And that would be what? So 0.35. So there it is again, 35 hundredths, right? 35 over 100. So I like to think of it as when you take away a percent sign, you're taking away how many place values from the number 35. When we took away the percent sign, we took away how many place values? 2, because it's hundredths, right? We moved the decimal left 2 places. Move your decimal left 2 places. So taking away percent sign causes us to take away 2 place values from the number. So this is true no matter how big or small a number is. Like if I have a huge number like 101%, go ahead and write that as a decimal. Got it down, 101% as a decimal, Olivia? 1.1. Good, 1.01, 1 and 100th, right. So this is a pretty big number, but we still imagine that invisible decimal that's sitting behind any number like that. And when we take away the percent sign, we move it twice to the left, right? This is also true with really small numbers. What if I have like 0 and 0.003%? Really tiny. 3,000th of a percent. Now change that to a decimal. Go ahead, try it. 0 and change this percent to a decimal number. Yes. This is a decimal percent. That's kind of interesting. And now you're changing it to a decimal number. And what would that be, Jake? 0 point. Well, it already says 0 and 003, 0 and 3,000ths. So when we take away percent sign, we take away 2 place values. Did you take away 2 place values? So what would you have? 0 and We're taking away 2 place values. Fill it in. We have 0 point, now we have 4 zeros. Great. Isn't that interesting? The same rule applies no matter how big or small a number is. You simply take away, you move left 2 places with your decimal. When you are used to getting just 2-digit numbers like, 25%, you're used to making these into decimals. And what is 25% as a decimal, Colin?
0.25.
0.25, right. It's just such a small, easy number. You moved it twice. It was a 2-digit number to begin with, right? But the same exact process applies to big numbers and small, okay? So you can do it. Just take away percent sign, take away 2 place values. Go ahead and pause the video, try these. We'll come back. So can we say these answers together? 98% is?
0.98.
Okay, so 0.98 or 98 hundredths, right? Take away percent sign, take away 2 place values. 262% is? Good, 2 and 62 hundredths. So the decimal that wasn't here is really behind that number, and you took away 2 place values. How about negative 22% is? 0.22, right? Negative 22 hundredths. So the decimal that was behind the number, we moved 2 places to the left. And now 15 hundredths percent is, who wants to say it for us? What is it? Ken?
0.0015.
Okay. She moved it 2 places. She moved that decimal 2 places to the left and filled it, right? And so if you were going to say that number, it would be 15 10 thousandths, right? The 5 is in the 10 thousandths place. So anytime you take away percent sign to create a decimal number, you just take away 2 place values. Okay? Finding percent of a number. What does of often give us as far as an operation? It often gives us what? Multiplication, right? So we can quickly find the percent of a number, right? Like 25% of 364 by using multiplication. The problem is when we have a number with a percent sign, 25%, we don't leave the number with the percent sign. In order to multiply this, we want to change that number to what kind of a number, Audrey?
A decimal.
Change it to a decimal. So 25% is? Well, you're making a decimal out of it. So you're taking away the percent sign, so take away.
0.25.
So you would say 0.25. We're going to take 0.25 times 364. That's how we find 25% of 364. Okay? There are other ways to find 25% because it is a quarter of a whole, right? You could actually think about it that way too. But you could simply multiply this, and what do you get when you do? Gavin? Good job, 91. 91 is 25% of 364. Does that seem reasonable to you?
Yeah.
25%, like about a quarter of 364? It does. Okay, good. Can you find 35% of 240? All right, so Izzy, how could we write this differently? Times 240. Good. And then you go work that out. And does anyone know what 35% of 240 is? Emily? Do you agree? 84? Okay. Sounds good. Anybody disagree? No. We've already done this, but we're going to do this again, and you'll see a few problems like this today, where you're changing a percent to a fraction. And you already know that percent means per 100, right? Per over 100. That's what it means. So we can take away the percent sign by placing a percent number over 100 and then simplify, like we saw on the very first screen today. So 20% could be changed to a fraction. Lauren, by doing what?
Making it a decimal.
Well, you could make it a decimal and then change it to a fraction, but we just said that you could take any percent number and then just place it over 100, right? So what would that look like here?
20 over 100.
And now notice we've also lost the percent sign, right? You don't need a percent sign here. And then what would we do with a fraction that's 20 over 100? We would simplify. So we can first of all divide top and bottom by 10, right? Both of them, and you have 2/10. But we could take that further, and 2/10 equals?
1/5.
Good, we would divide each of these by 2 and get 1/5. So let's try changing a few percents to fractions, and then you're ready to do your assignment, okay? So try these and come back and check your work, because this is a little tricky. This last one was a little tricky. So if you are at home watching this, there were two ways to think about it. Gabe changed this percent to a decimal, taking away the percent sign, and said, wow, that's 705 thousandths. So he put 705 over 1,000. Another way to look at it was taking and putting the original number over 100. But when we did that, we saw a decimal in this fraction. So we said, how do we get that decimal out? And what did we do? We multiplied the top and bottom by what? By 10. So when you multiply the top by 10, that increases, and the bottom by 10, and that increases. And then Gabe went ahead and divided the top and bottom both by 5, giving us a beautiful answer, interesting answer. Okay? So have fun. There you go.